we are running just a few minutes late. I will apologize because I literally just left an incident about 45 minutes ago. So this is going to be a little less formal than the previous webinars. I'm going to cover basically how to start supporting an incident using ArcGIS Online, and some of the bare minimum requirements really to get going. And then for the next one coming up, we're actually going to do a scenario and exercise to get everybody a little more hands-on rather than us just presenting some workflows and how-tos. We will be opening that up to all user types, so GISS, field data collectors, and then anyone who wants to view some of the results as they're coming in as well. So look for that. That'll be coming in your inboxes over the next day. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And you should be seeing the homepage of the National Interagency Fire Center ArcGIS Online site. I do want to just review some terminology. We are putting together a terminology probably on the homepage. So this is ArcGIS Online. It connects with your desktop ArcGIS software, and there's a lot of terms that you'll hear floating around revolving working in the cloud, working on the internet, working in the web. Some of the most common terms are web map, web app, org, feature service, map service. I'm sure there's many, many others. Sharing, and I'll think of some more as we go. So in the center of it all, we have data. And so you're going to always have a data layer. Everything in the web environment, whether it's a map or data or a product, which is really an app, is going to be called an item. You can also have PDFs that you've loaded in, or zip files if you need to share something with someone else. Each thing that you add into your My Content, which is similar to your My Documents, is an item. And so when you hear me say item, I'm just talking about one thing. Now that one thing can contain a whole lot of sub-things, really. So the map contains data. In here, this is My Content, highlighted on the Cold Springs Fire, which is in Colorado, and the type column, and that can help distinguish between such as features of a map. So in order to create anything, you really have to have data, and then you also have to have a web map. So we will share out kind of a diagram that points out how it's all interconnected. I don't have a whiteboard, otherwise I'd draw it. Questions about terminology or what something is, please. It's confusing. There's a lot of new words that you're hearing at interface, and so just kind of remember that the terms are a little bit different. So when we're trying to support you, if we're not understanding, then just try and describe what it is you're doing. In terms of sharing, that is the word for the data. What permission level do other people have to view it? So you share the data, share the maps, either to everyone or just to your team or side of this National Interagency Fire Center ArcGIS Online organization. So let's get started creating an incident. Kind of we're moving toward and using ArcGIS Online. At the bottom of my screen you see these boxes. These are pointing to different groups. For creating an incident, you will open Incident Resources. Please keep in mind that this is a pilot kind of slightly changing workflow. So this is right now. There are going to be some changes in where you go to find your initial map, because we're testing out some automation to try and streamline the process. So you click on Incident Resources. The first item is the data layer. The second item is the web map. So I'm going to click on that. If I click on the thumbnail that opens the title, it would have opened the item details about this map. All right. First thing I will do is zoom to the location of my new fire. There's an existing fire. Where should we go? About here. Okay, so I've zoomed to an area, maybe a little too close. Sorry for the slow draw. Then I'm clicking on Content over in the left. This is your table of contents bar. These are the different layers that I have added already. These are the point, line, and polygon of the NWCG data schema standard that has recently been approved. Now, it still says 2016 Incident Map Template. I want to save that as my new incident name. Use your GStop naming convention, please. And when you, now I am going training, and what should I name the fire? Copy. Summary. You will want to change that. Where in your content, add a tag that's appropriate. This is no longer a template. Save map. If you know the unit identifier, you can put that as a tag. All right, I'm ready to go. I have a blank incident map. I can start creating data at this point. How do you create data? I can say edit. Now, what if I have a field observer come in and they want to use collector? I have my basic map, but I have not shared. I also still need to finish kind of setting up this map for use by other people. It's okay, I can use it just as it is, but I want to come in, update the bookmarks. I like to always have a bookmark for the entire extent because there's no back to previous extent button. If I pan, I can come back, click bookmarks, go to fire area, and I've quickly reset or save. Save often. And then event point, event line, and event polygon. Depending on how you like it, you can rename that. Or I can just say lines. Whatever that name is, that's what's going to show up in the legend on apps that are created using this web map, and if you share this map for use in Collector. That's what your field data collectors will see. Now, fields, they may not need to edit polygons. I might not be gathering information from polygons from the field. Using the little dot, 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 that's your menu option after each layer, you can configure quite a bit. Transparency, visibility ranges, pop-ups, which this also dictates which fields are editable, and disable editing. I'm going to leave polygons in there so that when I add a polygon, it shows up, but I might want to disable editing if this is going to be my map for collector. If they're just supposed to collect lines and move those from, let's see, I don't want them to collect all of the features or fields, sorry. So let me back up and say again what I clicked on. Click on Configure Pop-up. The pop-up is basically when you're identifying a feature by tapping on it or clicking on it, what is displayed. Under this main box in the middle, your attribute displays. Some things are still editable, but not displayed. So when somebody goes in to edit the feature, they will have the option of being able to definitely want to include collector name. Best practice is to encourage your field users to enter their initials or last name, and they should be entering the date time. All they have to do is tap on the field and it auto-populates. For this particular incident, we're not tracking the map method, and they will not be determined whether the feature is visible. I can leave in there comments, rehab needed, or delete this feature. Rehab needed identifies the feature for the GIS specialist to remove once they're opening the data in ArcMap. Features cannot be deleted in the National Incident Feature Service using Collector or ArcGIS Online. That's to protect the data, to keep accidental deletion. Let's see, I think that's all the fields that I've added. Oops. Click OK. This whole time, I am the only person who has access to this map because I haven't shared it yet. So I'm going to share. My primary options are share with everyone and make it public. However, this is the incident data. This data layer should never be made collections through your desktop, which then also synchronizes with EGP. So this is not editable or not public. There is a public version in the works, but I'm going to show you one workflow for setting up some public. The other option is with the entire organization. If I shared this with NIFC, that's everyone who has a login, that's over 1,000 people, then when those folks go in to their collector, they can see my map. I don't really want that, because I would just want people working on this. So please don't check that. Find the group, and it should be the GAC, the team name, and mobile editing. Remember, each team has been set up with 5 groups. Please use those groups because that helps us when we're working to support you. All right, so I've now shared it with my data editors. If I also want this map, I could share it into my group. Working group is for GIS folks. However, once I've shared this with mobile editing, it's a good practice to remove it from working. Why? Because if someone downloads this map into Collector, no one should be editing the web map. Once it's a Collector map, leave it alone. Don't change the data layers. Don't change how it's set up. Don't add new bookmarks. Just leave it alone. The web map while save, and you have your data editing map. I believe there's a couple of the organizers who are members of the Orange group. Feel free to add some data if you'd like. Now, is this the same map I want to share with my PIOs for their public? No. Why not? Be layers. That doesn't get shared to the public. So for a PIO map, we're going to do a slightly different workflow. PIO map. Let's see, where's our map? There it is. We're going to start an ARC map. And let me see. I should have some data. I'm going to add. Oops. There. No, I don't seem to have any data. All right, so I will show you how to set up your MXD because it's fairly straightforward. The key things when getting for PIO map, you want to come into File, Map, Document Properties. The more information you type here, the less you have to do in the web environment. On fires, we know there's usually compromised internet, so it's much easier to, if somebody searches for fire, they're going to get already hundreds of thousands of results. So be specific. The unit identifier, you can add the year, something that is unique but easy enough to remember. And that's really the key thing. You want to sign in. Let's see if this will work. If you click Sign Me in automatic, remember agency or BLM or your local fire department, you need to be logging in with your NIFC account. Oops. Yeah. So we have a document in, it should be in the resources. We'll double check on where in the org it is on how to publish, because this is one of the many ways to share data. Once I put some data, and that's why we're doing this process for now. Hopefully soon there will be a public layer that will be fed from these points, lines, and polygons that are already a server-hosted data layer. That system isn't quite set up yet, So just know that there will be some changes coming that will streamline this process. Those are the very basic data collection using ArcGIS online. There's a couple different workflows for using this site for support of an incident. One is operations. From an operations standpoint, you're doing data collection, that information with possibly the IC, operations section chiefs, and then you can also have PIO aspect. In terms of the amount of time and effort to support, PIO is much simpler because you're really sharing one per for the most part. Once you start to get into progression, that's a little bit more, depending on how quickly and dramatically your fire is growing. So some examples. We'll open just a few examples, and then we'll start. Sorry, I love scrolling. I will use the Cold Springs fire, which is where I was just hanging out. Let's see, we might have 3 groups. One is the public. This is where your PIOs can all be a member of this group, and they can set up the apps and do the configuration. A lot of PIOs are learning how to do this. I know that causes a lot of workload. The paper maps, the trapline maps, maybe a big map for some community meetings where there's no network. On this particular incident, we did put up a projector and have one of these story maps on autoplay, so it just changed from page to page. So people could walk around the meeting talking with various folks from the sheriff's office and from the incident management, different aspects of the story map play. In this, you will see web maps, a couple of it's all about the apps. The apps, which are kind of your book cover, the front, the GUI interface, from the same web map. And so you can see the retardant lines on that. And bookmarks. This is one of 2 templates for a swipe map. You can slide it to the right and to the left. Another PIO example, managing the photos. All you are doing is providing a perimeter to data layer. Scroll through, the map moves around on the fire. From the operational standpoint, dashboards. Folks in camp entered using Collector. This particular map also is pulling in live data feeds from the local resources in the county that show emergency or evacuation areas, road closures. The local folks were managing all of that data in their servers. We were able to pull in those layers, and that way it's always up to date. For damage assessment, you can track number of buildings assessed and dollar value lost if that is part of the assignment. From the collector side, there are 4 collector maps that they created in there. one of them, actually three, so three maps, and then the data layer for one of the maps so that it's not shared anywhere else. Only people within this group can have access to that data. All right, so that's a really short run through. We did it in less than half an hour. We will be sending out a reminder of the workflow, the document that walks you through most of this. The only part that it doesn't include is the ArcMap portion on publishing. I'll include in the follow-up email some tips on that, as well as the link to the how to publish document that's geared towards incident response. So let me go back to let's see. Hang on, sorry. Okay. Okay. Did you guys answer all the questions yourselves, other organizers?
Hey, for any questions?
Okay. Are there any ones or common ones that needed to be answered to the whole group?
Right, there was a question about what 5 groups are the standard for the org.
Okay, so the 5 groups, this is the third one. The very first one, we do an overview of the org, but the 5 groups for each team or each response group are working, which is for GIS specialists, mobile editing for collectors or field users, public information, archive for any past incidents, maps, and data that you wanted to hold on, or kind of those around camp who need to see some data or see some maps but aren't necessarily editing or sharing publicly.
Another question, if you could web, and as far as, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, as far as I know, there's not, it's not available in the web map. Underneath set visible extent is where you can see what your extent is, what your scale is. Other than that, that's all I know.
Yes. Yeah, so from the web map side, there's a scale bar in the bottom corner. Only place we're really sharing just the web map is for collector users. Everything else we're in an app. And that really has much more capability. It's more user-friendly for non-GIS folks, even for GIS folks, depending on what the purpose. So with a lot of that, it's going to be thinking about, why am I creating this? Who's the map for? And as Deb said, if you click on the 3 dots and go to your set visibility range on each layer, you can see the map scale. Some of the apps do show that. And then in Collector, when you're doing a download, you can see to what is your scale set when you're downloading.
Another question was asking about GSTOP standards for online maps. I answered
Go ahead.
I answered that we don't have official standards set up for online maps. What we're having folks do is follow the standards that are set up for our maps that we generate in ArcMap and apply those standards to our web maps. Like Fern mentioned when she was naming that web map, is follow the standard that's set up for naming our ArcMap projects.
Correct. And so I should have followed the standard for the master kind of map product. Let's see, because we're also creating maps for progressions. I did a progression map this morning and online. You want to name that there are going to be some changes for the publicly viewable and for collector maps because you want the names to be very short for those. I would put the GSTOP standard map maybe in this description. So there, I see a question about simplifying this for training. Yes, this was a very, very simple, the bare minimum to get started. Kind of, you can use this workflow on a type 3, 4, 5, and for field response, starting to collect data, to interface with desktop for the things I showed you today. This is a small piece of the larger picture workflow. And so the assumption is you will get data from many sources, one of them being field users using collector, one being written on napkins while they're driving to and from camp. A lot of that isn't going to change. You're still going to get GPS units. All of the other data workflows that you've done for years, that stays the same. This is incorporating this piece. We are going to do a separate webinar on how to open and work with this data in ArcMap, because it is a workflow. There's a couple different ways to do it. You open the data, you save it locally so that if you lose internet, you have a backup. And we'll get to that. There are lots of different aspects of this, so we don't want to throw everything at you all at once. Okay, any other? I think that's most of the questions. Oh, how do you add somebody to your group? Let me reshare my screen. Where's my mobile editing group? There it is, mobile editing. Okay, so I have my mobile editing group. I'm on an incident, and 2 FOBs walk in. And they've checked in, they want to use collector, and so I need to somehow get them added to this list of members off to the side. There's a couple ways to do this. One way is clicking Invite Users. Now, you need to know their last and add Deb. When I click on the name, once I've selected that person, they show up on the right. If I clicked the wrong name, I'm on the right under Invitation List, and it removes them from the selection. Now, this checkbox down here, I see a lot of people skip that. When you're working with FOBs, I highly recommend just checking it, because what it does is it puts them in the group without requiring them to do anything. Open collector, they'll be in the group. If you don't check that, then it requires them to go through and accept the invitation using a web browser, which is an extra step for them, which we don't want to have. So check that box, add to the group, and our user has been added. Now, if you need to add a whole bunch of people, like if you get, I was working with a shot crew this week, if you get a shot crew that has 5 or 6 members and you're swamped, you're busy, you don't have time to add them, and they're not needing to be added that second, just sometime within the next maybe business day, you can send an email to wildfireresponse@gmail.com. At the bottom of this page, there's the Contact Us, and there's a number of folks who can help. Just say what we need to search on, who we need to add, and to what group you want them added. We can help do management of accounts in bulk. Then at the end of the incident, you may want to come back in as the kind of online manager for your team and say, who do we need to remove from this group? You know, are these people single resources that were just out with the team for one turn? And can we go ahead and remove them, clean it up, not only from our view, but when they open Collector, then they won't see as many maps. Do not remove them if they're still editing maps in there. That will break the connection they have with the map. Let's see. Were there any other questions come in there at the end?
Yeah, Fern, there was a question about what you're running on your machine in there.
Oh yeah, I run Parallels because I use a Mac. And so it's basically a virtual machine to run ArcMap. If you want to use this on your local district fires, send us an email and we can help get you set up. For access to the previous webinars, when you get the link to this one, it will also include where to find those. They are on Wildfire Lessons Learned. They're also on, I think, Cole, are they all on the NIFC YouTube?
Yeah, the previous two are up and posted on the NIFC YouTube site.
All right, we'll share that link in the follow-up email that you'll all get. And then I see one question on how to print from ArcGIS Online. There is a print function. It's pretty clunky. We have to have a server to set up a template, and that has been in the queue for something to do for a little bit. We'll try and get to that sooner. We were talking about it yesterday. So printing is clunky. There are a couple options. I often will set up my app if I'm trying to print something. I'll take a screenshot and put it into the PDF document for whatever report I'm writing or sharing, or you can actually link these maps directly into Power as a live map, which is pretty cool. But if you want the static image of what the map looked like on that day, you can print or you can take screenshots and save them as PDFs. So there is a question about generic names as well. And for incident management teams, for anybody who's going to be using it regularly, you should have your own account tied to your name, some checkout or generic accounts where you can then print off your 8.5 by 11 and either have your situation unit leader or yourself have that on the desk when people come in and need an account. You write on the side who you gave it to and hand them over your username and password so that you don't have to take the time to set something up there on site. It's working really well as a workflow, and then at the end of the incident you can reset that password. If you've set up those accounts to your email, you'll get that password reset notification. Just go in and set it before 2 weeks are up, and then you'll be able to share that username with another FOBs on the next incident. Because a lot of those folks either they're starting to get their own permanent account or they just use it for a couple days on an incident or for their full 14 and they don't have an account yet. But it's good to have some of those generic ones ready to go before you head out. If you need help setting up accounts, let us know. We're more than happy to help you with that. It's not something that you need to do very often, so there's no sense in you going through a long process to get it done. All right, sorry this was so short. I will send out an email in the next day with some links to the webinars, to some resources, how to publish, and the workflow. And if you have any questions, again, shoot us an email. If you need anything while you're on an incident, let us know. As I mentioned at the beginning, I just got back from an incident, so I'm more than happy to support however we can. Everybody have a good day. Thank you.